All right, hey there, fellow coder. Welcome to this next installment of our series where we're building an app from scratch using the Java stack. I would like to talk about how to use the cron job today. So cron jobs are, or rather the cron scheduler or whatever it's called, is used to automatically run code, run like a method, so calls a method at a predetermined interval that you get to set. So part of how the web works is there are controllers. Controllers listen for requests coming in on certain endpoints. So when you do a GET request, so you type in www.whatever.com and you hit enter, that's a GET request. Boom, that triggers something that happens, and there's an action that happens from that trigger. So usually the trigger is the GET request and the action is it runs a method. It's the same thing with this cron job, the scheduler. The scheduler is the trigger. The action is just a method that's being called. So the scheduler will, on a regular interval, whatever you set, let's say it's every 5 minutes or something, every 5 minutes it'll trigger, and it will call the method that you tell it to call. So it'll run that. That's the action it will take. So it's a trigger action situation. The trigger is just the interval that you set it to. So right now in our code, we sort of hard-coded the creation of the service. We've instantiated the service, and then we call it once when we boot up the app. But that's obviously not, long-term, that's not good. That's not how we want to do it. So we want to have some sort of a scheduler, right? So, which is, a cron job, or I forget, we'll find out what it's called. I haven't used it in a bit. We'll find out. We'll call it the cron job package. You don't have to call it cron job. You can call it just jobs. Maybe that's a better name. Let's call it jobs. So instead of cron job, we'll say jobs. Boom. So then jobs, we'll create a new Java class, and we'll call this the course report API, or we'll call it course report scheduler or something like that. Sure. And this, to use it, you use the use an annotation. So you start with @ and I forget if it's called cron. No, it's not called cron. Is it called scheduled? Yeah, scheduled. I believe it's scheduled. So scheduled requires you to, it's not on the, it's on the, method level. So the scheduled is not on the, so I was putting it on the class here, but it actually belongs on a method. So let's create a method. Public void, poll course report API, right? So let's move this scheduled annotation down. All right, how do you do it in? I'm so used to doing Alt and then down as a shortcut key in Eclipse. I don't know how to move this one line of code down using. Anyway, cut, paste, right? So there. So now scheduled. So in Eclipse, you just hit Alt and down. It moves the code down line by line. There's a way to do it in. Is it Control Alt? Nope. I don't even know what I just did there. Oh gosh, anyway. So scheduled. Is the annotation, and it requires, it takes essentially arguments here. So when I open up the brackets, it wants it wants one of a bunch of different things, right? So what I'm going to give it is the, fixed delay, right? But I can do it as a string, fixed delay string. So I can give it a fixed delay, and I believe it's in milliseconds, if I'm not mistaken. So we can do, like if we say 5,000 as milliseconds, it doesn't like that. Cannot find, cron equals. Right? Cron equals schedule, no, fixed delay. Sorry, fixed delay. Cron is something different. We'll get there. And then I believe it probably requires the fixed delay to be a number, not a string. So let's do this. Oops. There. So you see, this is how a senior level developer does it. I just fumble around. If I was good, I would have just looked this up on Google, but hey, this is more fun, isn't it? So fixed delay 5,000, I believe, will mean it waits 5,000 milliseconds before it actually runs the code. And the code that it runs will be part of this method here, that it's the scheduled annotation is that belongs to that, right? If I want to have another one, I can have another scheduled with a fixed delay of, 10,000 or something, and then, we have public void some other action, and then it does some other action there. So you can have multiple cron jobs, if you will, multiple things at the same time. But anyway, I'll just use the one because we don't need to have two right now. And I'm just going to do this, system out print line. And we'll say, we'll just print out the local date time dot now. So that'll just output the current local date and time, which is the time and date of my machine. When it says local, it just means the machine that this is running on. So it's running on my machine, so it's just going to get the time that my machine is set to. So let's see. So it should be every 5 seconds if all goes well. Now I might need to enable the scheduling. So if this doesn't work right away, I believe in the back of my mind I'm remembering, and it's not working because I don't see any system outs here. In the back of my mind I'm remembering that we need to do another annotation called enable scheduling. There you go. I believe that's what we need to do. Because when I type in scheduled, or when I typed in scheduled over in the scheduler service over here, when I started typing this in, I saw enable scheduled in that list that it was suggesting. So that helped trigger my memory. So I believe now this should work. And if it doesn't, we'll just use Google. Google's the one that we need. So polling... Let's just wait 5 seconds and see if it prints out another line. I'm not seeing another line. And do I see another one anywhere else in this? No, I don't. So let's go to the Google, and we will say spring scheduler, I guess, scheduling tasks. Sure. So, blah, starting with initializer. We've already done that. We did the start.spring.io. Blah, 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 blah. Component scheduled task. So it has these scheduled with fixed, it says fixed rate instead of fixed delay. That could be one thing we need to use instead. And that's on the component. Enable schedule, enable scheduling in, this is on the application, which we did. We put this into the application. Is there anything else? So yeah, it could just be instead of fixed delay, it's fixed rate. Okay, so let's restart that. Although I feel like fixed delay would have run it by now, so that's interesting that it didn't do it. And or maybe also 5,000 maybe is too long. Maybe it should just be 5. Maybe 5,000 is the number of seconds. Let's see. What is their example? No, they use 5,000. Interesting. So, oh, you know what? This is what's missing. Component. So it is not instantiating this class automatically. So because I didn't mark it as a component, Spring doesn't recognize this as anything. So when I add the component annotation here on top of the class, now Spring will actually pick it up and realize it exists and then be able to run the scheduled fixed rate. That's my guess. Yes, so here it is. That's the line that I was looking for. And then in 5 seconds, there it is again. And then in 5 more seconds, so you see, boop, there it goes. So every 5 seconds, it's going to run this code for us, right? So that's how a fixed rate scheduler works. And for our purposes, this is what we need. We need it to run every X number of minutes. That's perfectly acceptable. Now, there are other ways to do this. So if you go to the Google, you can go Cronjob examples or something, and you can look at so how to write Cronjob for every X number of minutes, every hour, so if you said every day and you click on this, it says this is how you do it, right? Run it at midnight every day. So this is the minute, hour, day, month, and day of the week. So this is really cool. I like this. So if you wanted to run it at, this is really nice. I like this website. crontab.guru. Thank you for your service, crontab.guru. This would have saved me so much pain and suffering. So if I want to run it every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, this is how I would do it, right? If I only want to run it on certain days of the months, right? If I only want to run it on the 5th, right? So at 5 a.m. on the 5th day of the month, this would be the thingy. If I want to run it only on, from the 1st to the... Oops, I just locked my computer. 1 second. There we go. If I want to run it from the 1st to the 15th, right? So on every day of the month from the 1st through the 15th at 5 a.m. it would run. If I only want to run it on... Let me put it back to star. So every if I only want to run it in January, so which is once a year, right? Or if I want to run it on certain days of the week, right? I could say, hey, only on Tuesdays at 5, right? So this string here is what is called the cron string, right? The cronjob string. So if I wanted to run, let me go back to star. If I wanted to run at 5 a.m. every day, I'd copy this string and I would replace this with something different. So let me comment this out. So that's gone now. And I would say scheduled, and I would say cron equals boop, and I would put that string in there, right? So this string 0 space 5 space star space star space star means right here, run it every day at 5 a.m. right? And if I want it to be at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd put 13, right? Because if you get mixed up, you might put 1, and then you might want to put like PM or something. That it doesn't like that. You can't do 1 PM. So this is a 24-hour clock for those of you in North America who use the 12-hour clock often. Yeah, this is military time, ladies and gentlemen. So, 20 o'clock would be, oh gosh, I'm bad at this. 10, it'd be 8 o'clock PM or 8:30 or whatever. You get the idea, right? So you can play around with this. But I really want this to run like every 5 minutes, right? So I could even just say every hour at 5 minutes, right? Oh no, that's at the 5th minute. That's not every 5 minutes. How would you do every 5 minutes? At minute 5. I can't remember anymore. Anyway, I guess that's why you would use the fixed delay, right? The fixed rate, okay? So let me delete that. Let me bring back in the scheduled thing here. And that's as simple as it is, really. That's how these things work. You'd put in your either your fixed rate or your cron job string, and then you sit back, relax, and let it execute your code. Every X number of iterations. So that's the first step towards getting this thing working properly. But now look, we want it to call here. We want it to just actually pull the course report API through our service, right? So it's actually not that hard to then go in here and have it execute our code in our service. So let's inject the service, right? So we have private course report service, call it course report service, and let's inject it via what's called constructor. What's it called? Constructor wiring. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll create the constructor course report service. Which, how do you do this with? Again, I'm used to doing, I think it's Alt Insert. Yeah, so we generate a constructor, right? Alt Insert generates a constructor, boom, 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 there we go. It realizes, hey, I just defined a field here, and it's going to inject it inside of the constructor for us, right? And to get to that, you right-click and you say Generate, okay, Alt Insert, and then you can say Constructor, if you were wondering how I did that. So that injects the course report service, and then in here, instead of just having it print out the time, we can say course report service dot poll course report API, right? And let's start that up. So now every 5 seconds, it will pull the course report API. All right. Now it does it twice at the beginning because remember we still have that code in there that's calling it at the very start. So now I can get rid of that code because it's duplicating the call at the beginning. And now you can see every 5 seconds, it's polling that endpoint, which is exactly what we want. And then we can go over here to our application file. And here, this was that code that I temporarily put in that ran at startup. Now we can delete that, save, start up the app again. And now it won't call it twice at the beginning. It'll call it once right there. So it did the polling right here. And it got the 200 response, and then in the next 5 seconds, it does it again, and then the next 5 seconds, so it just keeps on polling that same endpoint over and over again. So sweet, that's the start of what we need to do to make this work properly. So in the next one, we'll talk about what the next steps are, which is going to be maybe persisting some of this stuff to the database.